In 1987, the town of Cutter's Point on the Maine coast had one working lighthouse, one gas station, and a general store that closed at 6. Everyone knew everyone, and everyone knew the story of Ruth Callahan. Ruth had married the lighthouse keeper, Daniel Callahan, in 1962. She was 22, he was 34, and the town figured she'd tire of the isolation within a year. She didn't. She stayed 25 years, through storms that ripped the roof off the boathouse twice, through winters where the only sound was wind and the foghorn. Daniel died of a heart attack in 1985, out on the rocks checking the lamp. Ruth found him at dawn, already stiff, seawater pooling around his boots. She kept the light running herself for 2 more years. The Coast Guard offered to relieve her, said it wasn't her job anymore, but she refused to leave. She said the light needed a Callahan. In November of 1987, she went missing. Her boat was still tied at the dock. Her coat was still hanging by the door. But Ruth Callahan was gone, and the Coast Guard search turned up nothing. No body, no note, nothing but a smear of something dark on the lamproom glass that everyone quietly agreed not to talk about. That's the story printed in the local paper anyway. What happened to the family who bought the property in 2019 is the part nobody printed. Mark and Sarah Chen had been looking at old properties for 2 years. Mark did remote architecture work and had always had a thing for lighthouses. The geometry of them, he said, the honesty of a building that only had one job. When the listing for the Cutter's Point light came up, decommissioned by the Coast Guard and sold off with the keeper's cottage attached, he didn't even negotiate. They packed up their apartment in Boston and moved their 9-year-old daughter, Lily, 300 miles north to a rock in the Atlantic. The first few weeks were what you'd expect. Lily complained about the internet. Sarah complained about the damp getting into everything. Books, clothes, the inside of cabinets. Mark spent his days restoring the old lamp room, even though the light itself had been automated decades ago and didn't need a person up there at all. He liked being up there anyway. He said it made him feel like he understood the house. It was Lily who noticed first, though nobody believed her for a long time. "There's a lady on the stairs," she told her mother one night in October, about 6 weeks after they'd moved in. "What lady, baby?" "The one who checks if my door's locked." Sarah had laughed it off. "Old houses make noise," she told Mark that night in bed. "Kids get spooked." But 3 nights later, Sarah woke at 2 a.m. to the specific, unmistakable sound of a door handle being tried. Not shaken, not rattled, but turned, slowly, all the way to the latch, and then let go, over and over. She sat up. Mark was asleep beside her. She checked Lily's room. The door handle was turning on its own, cold under her hand when she grabbed it. The metal painfully cold, like it had been sitting outside in January. She told herself it was a draft. She told herself a lot of things over the next few months. The pattern that emerged, once Sarah stopped explaining it away and started actually paying attention, was this. The presence, whatever it was, checked doors. Every door in the house, every night, methodically, working from the top of the house down. It tried the lamp room door first, then the bedroom doors, then the kitchen door, then finally the door to the cellar. The one that led down to where the old fog signal equipment used to sit. It never opened any of them. It just checked. Like a routine, like a job. Mark, when Sarah finally told him what she'd been hiding, didn't dismiss it the way she'd expected. He looked pale, actually, and admitted something he hadn't told her. He'd found the ship's log from the light, water-damaged but mostly legible, tucked behind a loose board in the lamp room. And in the log, Daniel Callahan's handwriting, and later, after his death, a second hand, Ruth's, describing her nightly rounds. Checked all doors, checked the lamp, checked the boat lines. A keeper who does not check has already failed. Entry after entry, night after night, for 2 years after her husband died. The same phrase, almost like a prayer. Checked all doors, checked the lamp, checked the boat lines. She thought it was her job, Mark said quietly. After he died, she thought if she stopped checking, something bad would happen. They should have left then. Everyone who's ever told this story agrees on that part. But Mark, being Mark, thought understanding was the same thing as safety. He thought if he learned the pattern, he could live alongside it. For a while it seemed to work. The checking continued, every night, but nothing worse happened. Lily stopped being scared of it, in the way kids do when fear becomes routine. She started saying goodnight to the lady on the stairs the same way she said goodnight to her parents. Sarah still didn't like it, but she adjusted, the way people adjust to living near a fault line. It's fine until it isn't. What changed was the fog machine. In February, the automated foghorn system failed during the worst storm of the season, a nor'easter that knocked out power up and down the coast. Mark, doing what any conscientious new lighthouse owner might do, went up to the lamp room in the middle of the night to check on the backup generator, worried a ship might come too close to the rocks in the dark. He wasn't gone long, 15 minutes, maybe 20. When he came back down, every door in the house was standing open. Every single one. The cellar door, Lily's door, the front door swinging in the wind, rain pooling on the floorboards, and Sarah was standing in the hallway in her nightgown, absolutely still, staring at the top of the stairs, where, she told Mark later, and only once, and never again after that night, Ruth Callahan was standing in a keeper's coat soaked through with seawater that wasn't rain, her face turned toward the lamp room Mark had just left unattended. She didn't check, Sarah whispered when Mark asked her what was wrong. For the first time since we've been here, she didn't check, because you did her job for her and it broke something. Nothing attacked them that night. Nothing screamed or lunged or did any of the things horror stories are supposed to have happened. Ruth Callahan simply looked at the open front door for a long moment, then walked down the stairs, past Sarah, out into the storm, and didn't come back inside. The doors have never opened on their own again. Not once, not in the 6 years since. No footsteps on the stairs, no cold door handles at 2 a.m. The checking simply stopped, the way a habit stops, when the person doing it finally believes the job is over. Lily, who's 15 now, says she still misses her sometimes. Says the house feels lonelier without the sound of someone else awake at night, keeping watch. Sarah has a different theory about what happened, one she's only shared with a few people. She thinks Ruth Callahan wasn't checking doors to keep something out. She thinks Ruth was checking to make sure nothing that came in with her, 25 years alone on a rock with the sea, had gotten back out. And she thinks that on the night Mark left the lamp unattended, for the first time in 6 years, whatever Ruth had spent decades keeping locked in the cellar, finally had 15 minutes with an open door. The Chens still live at Cutter's Point. Mark still restores the lamp room in his spare time. But they've added one thing to their nightly routine that wasn't there before, a habit none of them have ever discussed out loud, but all three of them do without fail, every single night before bed. They check the cellar door twice,